Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the second edition of the 2CarGuys podcast with John and myself. We just want to kind of pick up where we left off last week. And John, why don't we start with last week? You came up to the great city of Atlanta, right?
Yeah, what's going on, guys? So, yeah, I made my first trip to Caffeine and Octane in the new car, and it was absolutely epic, man. We had a great time. One of the best car events we've done in a long time. We met Adam at the Aston Martin event, and we had a great time, man. Those guys were super cool. They were a ton of fun. We were just cruising around in cool cars and talking car stuff and doing fun stuff, man. It was great. Overall, I think the trip went well. What do you think, Adam?
So I think it was pretty cool. I'd never hung out with the Aston group before. That was new for me. So great group of people. Honestly, I had a really good time hanging out with them. We ended up at a restaurant in Roswell that had probably one of the
Yeah,
best chicken sandwiches I've ever had. But a lot of really cool
well,
cars out there. But you were talking about Caffeine and Octane, right? So we did that on
right, yeah.
Sunday.
Yeah, so Caffeine and Octane was a ton of fun, except it was freezing out there, man. We were freezing to death out there. We got in the car at one point and we're just like, God, I'm ready to get back out of here.
So you know what's
But
funny
they
is I've got a
yeah,
picture of you in the car. I think it's online. It's a picture of you and Jess
right.
in the car, like
I'll pop it up.
freezing, trying to warm
Yeah,
up, right?
we were done. We were like, Jessica, I was like, hey, what do you want to do? And she's like, get in the car. We're getting in the car
Yeah,
now. I was like, all right, fine.
yeah,
We got in the car. But the day before was beautiful, man. It was like great weather. Like
yeah.
we had a
Saturday was
awesome
the
time
wet.
Saturday.
Yeah, the weather Saturday was really, really good. The weather
Yeah,
Sunday was
man.
just terrible. I
Garbage.
mean,
It's
it was freezing cold, but to Caffeine Octane's credit, they still had a pretty good turnout. There were a lot of
yeah,
people
the
there.
oh my god, man. So I hadn't been to Caffeine and Octane since they moved to the new location. And I was like lost in the sauce, man. We showed up and there was a line of people lined up. And I'm like, maybe I need to get in that line. And I'm like, are we in the right place? Like, and I was like, it doesn't look like Caffeine and Octane. And it turns out we were in like the parking section on the other side of the mall. And it
Oh,
went
okay, yeah,
all the way around.
yep.
And I'm like, my God, when we finally showed up at Caffeine and Octane, it was a small part of the whole event. Like, I feel like Caffeine and Octane's outgrown itself, man. It's amazing
It
how many people
has,
showed up.
and I'll have to look and see. I think I might have an aerial shot that a friend of ours took.
Wow, that would be super
Uh,
cool to throw up if
yeah,
we can do that.
yeah, that'd be. I'll have to look for it, but an aerial
Yeah,
shot of the first Cafe and Octane at Town Center Mall,
yeah,
and dude, it was crazy. Like the parking lot all the way around the mall was completely packed. It was unreal. Um,
yeah,
but like I said, to their credit, I mean, they had a ton of people show up, but I
yeah.
mean, you said this is your first time being there. I'll tell you, it was dead compared to normal. Like normal,
Yeah,
it is packed out.
so we've been to the old location,
Yeah,
multiple times, and, it was about what this was on a normal day, like, on a nice day,
yeah.
and this one was but it was wrapped around the mall, man. It was crazy how many people had came to this event, like, I was like, "Golly," and it was freezing out there.
So,
I mean, people were
oh,
literally walking around shivering,
it was
like, it
cold. It
was
was really cold, man. And
cold,
I,
man.
I thought I packed up. I thought I dressed appropriately. I had the sweatshirt on. I had the jacket on, and I
Yeah.
was like, man, I'm ready to go. And I was still cold.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, not to. I don't want to give too much away, right?
Right. Oh,
But
yeah. I know
there's
what you're
there's a
talking about.
potential that you'll be coming back for future caffeine octanes. Am I right?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I mean, if that works out, man, that's gonna be awesome. That'd be
Yeah,
great to add to the
I think it'd be really cool. So for those of you listening, we don't want to say too much just yet, but we've got some friends at Cafe and Octane, and it would be really cool for us to partner with them, kind of going forward a little bit. So we'll see.
yeah.
But I had a fantastic time out there, and it was good to see both the Astons together and all
Oh,
that
yeah.
stuff. So that was really cool.
What do you think of the new
Um,
tag?
Dude, I got to be honest with you. I did not think you were going to go that way because you usually do the Wounded Warrior tag.
Yeah, so normally I get a Purple Heart tag for all my cars. People that know me, prior service military, and after being blown up a few times, I deserve to rock my Purple Heart tag on all my cars. But This one was a little different. His tag, what's your tag say, Adam?
So my tag actually says not stirred, and it's because I tried to do it's on the Aston, right, James Bond, shaken not stirred. I tried to do shaken in Georgia, and it was already taken, and
Right.
so I was
And
like, not stirred. That's the way to go. So I ended up with that.
yep, and it was available in Alabama, so we put shaken on our car. So when we're riding together, it's gonna say shaken, not stirred. So it
We
should
got to
be
be
really cool.
very conscious of how we park
Oh,
next
where
to
we
each
park.
other. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So this is what happens when car guys get together, right? You just come up with these crazy things in your head, and you're like, "We got to do this. It's
Oh
got to
yeah,
happen.
yeah. No, this is going to be great. Everybody's going to love it. Just
It's
watch.
gonna be great. Everybody's gonna love it. And people are gonna just be like, that's dumb. Why'd you do
I
that?"
still say, and I picked this out. I it came to me when I was doing my own tag, but my friend's got an Aston. Actually, she's got a new Aston that's waiting to be delivered. But my friend's got an Aston, and I started writing it out on a piece of paper, and I was like, I could make money penny work. And I
Oh,
wrote it
like
out, and I wrote out money penny, and I was like, oh my god, it works. And I called her up. I was like, hey, listen, you need a custom
that would look
tag.
good
And
on her
she's like, I don't want a tag. Oh, she's got it. She's got money
She
penny.
did.
Yeah, she just took it off the old one and it's on the new one. But I was
Oh,
like,
us
man, you
three
got to get
together,
this on your
man.
car.
That's gonna be
Yeah,
awesome, dude. I can't wait
yeah,
to
it's gonna be
cruise and do that. That's gonna be fun.
it's gonna be really cool. I
Well,
know she's really looking forward to her new car too. So, um,
absolutely.
speaking of cars, have you been? I don't think I've asked you this before. Have you been to the Savoy Museum up in Cartersville?
I haven't. No, I haven't.
Okay, we
So
need to get
when
you up there big time.
yeah, I'd love to check it out, man. So where is it located?
So it's in Cartersville.
Okay.
It's kind of funny. I don't even remember what I was doing up on that side of town, but I was over in Cartersville one day and I was driving down and I saw this like huge building and it said Savoy on it. I was like, what the heck is that? And I ended up looking it up online and it turns out it's a car museum. And
Okay.
I was there the weekend they opened. And I'll tell you, it's impressive. It's very, very, very beautiful space. It's not very big. So I mean you can walk through it in an hour if you read all the stuff.
Okay.
Um, but that's why it's so cool.
Right.
Because there's they put a lot of focus on different exhibits every month rather. And what's really neat is they have a core collection that's in there all the time, and then they have stuff that rotates through. And they've had
Right.
Brian Fuller's motorcycles and cars. They've had a Pirelli thing that had the F1 car. They had uh, a like a bunch of muscle cars that were and they had like a hoods up thing where they showed all the engines of all the muscle cars. They did fabulous fins, which was all these old cars that had big fins on them, which was super cool.
Oh, that's super cool, man.
But this month they actually had the Chip Foose collection. So in the main
Yeah.
hallway is all the cars from Chip Foose's private collection. And about a week ago, no, it had to be like a couple weeks ago, I got an email from Savoy and they were like, hey, because you're a member, we're doing a members only event where you get to come and talk to Chip Foose and get to hear him speak. And we'll throw a picture of the event up there. But
Right.
I've always liked the guy, right? I used to
Oh yeah,
joke
man.
around when I was younger, because I was big into overhauling, right?
Yeah.
And I used to joke around when I was younger, so the premise, if anybody hasn't seen it, behind overhauling was they would find a person who had an old car who just essentially didn't have the time or the money or the expertise or whatever to rebuild the car.
Yeah.
And they kind of pranked them. They'd go and steal the car. They'd work with the family and they would turn this car into this beautiful dream of what the car could be. And it was awesome. And the crazy part is they did it in 8 days, like
Yeah, it's like
eight
this
days.
crazy turnaround. Like, I can't even imagine the stress of trying to just get parts for something like that quick, man.
So
Like,
Chip said
unreal.
they had, 50, 60 people working on one car at a time. And they basically had all these people in there and that, you got the bumper, you got the engine, you got this and you got that. And so each person
Right.
had their thing to do. And Chip said that he was so hyper focused that he wouldn't sleep for like 8 days, but he'd be like focusing on the bumper. And if you took his attention away from the bumper, he'd like almost start to fall asleep talking to you because he could
Yeah.
focus really well on the bumper. But the minute you took his attention away, he just kind of like faded away, right?
Right.
Um, but he was saying that it was the most satisfying but the most stressful thing he's ever done. They
I can
did
only
something
imagine.
like, I think I told you, they did something like 87
83.
cars in
Yeah,
83
87.
cars
Yeah.
in 5
Yeah.
years, right?
That's wild.
Um
Man.
yeah, it's insane. It's insane. But and to turn them around in 8 days is just in absolutely next level.
Yeah.
But he's probably one of the most talented people that I've ever met in the car industry, as far as being creative, and one of the most down to earth and nice people I've ever met too. But what was
That's super
really
cool.
crazy was, and I used to make this joke all the time when I was watching Overhauling. So what they would do is they'd take the car, they'd sit down with the family, and they would you know put this rendering together of what it could look like, right?
Yeah.
And
Well,
the
Chip was an artist, so he would
that
draw
was
it
that
out,
was it, right?
and he
So
would
the
like
crazy
lay it out and
part,
say, "This is what it's
ex-
going to be." Yeah.
exactly, the crazy part
Yeah.
is he would essentially do the drawing, and he'd get
Yeah.
it done, and he'd be doing it in like pen, and he'd color it in, and he'd get it done. And then he would take it to the family and show them, and they'd be like, "Oh my God." And then he'd show the camera, and I'd look at the people that were watching it with me, and I'd be like, "That's not even what he's good at." Like, that's not even
Yeah.
what he's known
It's
for.
wild, man.
He's not known for the art. He's known for the cars. And
Yeah.
it was so crazy to me to see that happening. But I mean, the guy is just next level talented.
How
Unbelievable.
was the event
Unbelievable.
though? Overall
It
good?
was really cool. I was so
Yeah.
that was the first Savoy event that I've ever been to,
Right.
and I didn't know what to expect, right? And so
Yeah.
we drove up there, and you checked in, and they had, we were able to go around and look at all the exhibits and do all that stuff. So that was pretty cool. And
Yeah.
then they catered it, and
Oh,
they had
nice. So they
food
had
and
food and
drinks,
everything.
and yeah, the whole nine
That's very
yards. And
cool.
then after that, we went into the auditorium. So they actually have a full movie theater where they show, car themed movies every month.
Wow.
And they
Nice.
have got this big movie theater, and we packed the movie theater out and got to
Nice.
sit there, and they walked through, like, Chip's like like young adult life, and then adult life, and then
Yeah.
they talked about his relationship with Boyd Coddington, which is really how he kind
Yeah.
of got his start.
That's right. He started at
And
Boyd's shop, didn't he?
sure did. Yep.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
when I was a kid, I built model cars. This is wild, man. This goes all the way back. And one of the coolest cars I ever built was a Coddington truck. And it
Yeah.
was like it was like a Silverado. It was like lowered and all this crazy stuff. And for it to come full circle and Chip to be, somebody that you got to meet, that's awesome, dude. And
Well, and
also
I'll tell
Chip's
you,
like one of my heroes.
oh, he's so cool.
Yeah,
If I had more, because honestly, as of Saturday morning, I didn't know if I was going to be able to go. And
right.
so if I had more like heads up, I would have been like, "Hey, come on, make the drive," right? But
Right.
what was really crazy um, was he had two trucks there, and I like old school trucks. I've always liked them, but they had two trucks there. One of them was his dad's truck that his dad gave him, and in one of the overhauling episodes, they stole the truck. His team stole the truck, and his dad worked with the team to redo it.
I didn't see that one.
Oh,
That's
it's an
wild,
awesome
man. I'm
episode,
gonna have to
right?
check
And
that one out,
so
man. That's awesome, dude.
his dad works with the team to redo it. They redo the truck, and it's just awesome. And he even says,
Right,
he's like, "That's one vehicle I'll never sell, never get rid of."
right.
It's for
Yeah, it's
and then the other one that's there is a really cool story, because he was over at somebody else's shop, and it's funny too, because he's telling these stories about different people, and when he
right,
starts telling these stories, he's like, "Oh yeah, Boyd Coddington and this guy and this guy," and you're like, "Oh man, he knows everybody, right? Everybody knows
right.
this guy, right?" But he was over at somebody's shop, and they had a small block, and he's like, "I don't need this motor. Do you want it?" And Chip was like, "Yeah, I'll take it." And so he brought
Absolutely.
his truck
Yeah.
around, puts the motor in it, and takes it back, and gets to his shop, and he looks up the VIN on the motor, looks up the information on the motor, and it's a super rare Z28 motor. Like,
Okay.
it was crazy rare, and so he calls the guy back, and he's like, "Hey, by the way, this motor's worth something. Like, it's a really
Right.
good motor." And the guy's like, I don't care. You can have it. And
Right.
so
Yeah. Don't care.
what he ended up doing was he took a C10 pickup truck and put the Z28 motor in it and put a
Right.
whole bunch of go fast parts on it, but made it look essentially made it look like it should have come that way from the factory, right? So
Right.
it didn't have like crazy lines and it wasn't like wide bodied, and it
Yeah.
looked like, if you didn't know anything
Million
about
plus.
cars, if you walked up to it, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's a Chevy C10, right?
Right.
And he actually calls it the C28 because it's
Oh,
got
that's
the
pretty cool.
Z28 motor in it.
Yeah.
And so he actually reprinted the tag that's inside the glove box that shows all the options. He
Yeah.
reprinted it with all
The
C28
extras.
options on it,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like, that's so
Neat.
cool,
It's that little touch, man.
It just is, and it's so
Yeah.
cool because he's got that attention to detail. And I'll tell this last quick story about it, but
Yeah, you're good.
so you can tell I really had a good time. But
Yeah, absolutely.
so we're there, and he's telling these stories about the different cars he's taken to the Riddler, because he's won that count, I think 8 or 10 times, something crazy. And he's also won what they call the Amber Award, which is America's most beautiful roadster, right?
Right.
So he's won the Amber Award a bunch of times. He was talking about the difference between winning the Amber Award and winning the Riddler Award and how difficult it was. And he's
Right.
talking about this one vehicle. Now, think about the cars you've got, right? Because we said in the last episode, you've got 7 or something like that, right? I have 3 cars,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We're car guys. We are. There's the sign back there, right?
Yeah.
I'm lame. I
Car
haven't put
guys,
my
baby.
sign up
Let's
yet.
go.
But we're
Right.
car guys, and I would argue that you and I know the flaws that are on our cars,
Every one of
right?
them.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I can pick it out right now.
Literally, he gets up there and they said to him, tell us a little bit about this car. He said, well, this car in particular, there were 3 things wrong with it. And he goes, there was a chip
Nice.
on he said there was a chip on the oil pan,
Yep.
and they didn't have enough time to redo it. And it was like all hand painted, and it was like on its way to the Riddler. And they ended up fabricating what looked like another drain plug and shearing it off and gluing it to the bottom of the oil pan.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the other thing that was funny was he said that there was a chip or a scratch on the steering column. So when they put the steering column in, it kind of
Right.
chipped it on its way in, and he ended up hand brushing the chip and then sanding it down. And he was like, from a
Right.
certain angle, you could see it. And then the last thing he said that was wrong with the car was there was a scratch in the glass, on the back glass, and he was able to take WD-40 and wipe it over the glass, and it
Until it
made
smeared it.
made it so you
Where
couldn't
it
see it, right?
Wow.
And I was sitting there and I was thinking, he built that car 30 plus years ago, 20 something years ago, right?
Right.
And he still remembers those
Each one of
3
the
little
flaws.
things
Yep.
that were wrong
Oh,
with
yeah.
that car, right? I was like,
Yep.
man, that's just crazy. That's,
Well,
but that's a car guy, right?
yeah, well, like when I bought the Viper, it was, I mean, it was like a factory car. It had 8,000 miles on it, but they had all been like pristine miles, never been scratched, anything. Took it over to my buddy's house. I'm leaving out of his driveway, and he's got a drop off, and I
Yeah.
didn't cut the curb right because it was like in a cul-de-sac, so I didn't judge it right. Scraped the front bumper. To this day, like it's on the lift right now, and I'm like,
You're
don't.
like, dang
I need to get
it.
it repainted. And then
Yeah.
there's a rock chip on the hood from the tail of the dragon. I blame John Horney for that.
Oh, I believe that.
Yeah.
No, I've got a couple of those. I mean, when I first got my X5, I was getting out of it and I had something in my pocket and it caught the door.
Oh.
And like we were on our way somewhere. We were sitting there.
Yeah.
A friend of mine looks at me and they're like, "You're upset, aren't you?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah."
Yeah, it's something
but
that
no one knows it's there
when
but
it
me.
happens. Yeah, when it happens, you're just like, there's nothing you can do to change it. But at the
No,
same time, you're just the whole time you're just steaming about, if I'd have done this different, right? If I had changed that little
exactly.
thing or
Yep.
done something, you're just
If
steaming
I didn't
about it.
come at that curb at that angle, if I
Yep.
didn't do
Didn't
this,
park in
yeah,
that spot, didn't do that. It's just, we beat ourselves up too much, I think.
yep. But I mean,
Yeah.
we have a passion for these cars, so
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the big news, right, is that Hamilton is going to Ferrari, but he's not going to
Yep.
Ferrari until 25.
Yep. So
So
think the
24 is
way
going to be
it
real awkward in the Mercedes garage
and the Ferrari garage. Think you got Sainz
and
sitting
the
there, man.
Ferrari
Like,
garage because Science is going,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So
So,
I think what it is they extended the contract for Leclerc,
right.
and that big extension triggered Science to be like, "Hey, what's up, guys?" And Hamilton was like, "This is my chance if I'm going to drive for Ferrari before I retire," and he took it. And
So here's how I feel,
can't
right?
blame him.
And I
Everybody
know I
wants
got a
to drive
Ferrari
Ferrari.
back there, right?
Yep.
I don't own a
Trying to be
Ferrari yet.
right yet.
But
Yet.
I'm
Don't
not
make me.
I'm not a Ferrari fanboy. In fact, I'm wearing my McLaren Formula One at the moment. And when I went to Italy, I was wearing all my Aston Formula One gear.
Yeah.
But I honestly think that if Ferrari does well, it's good for the sport because, like a lot
Well,
of people love Ferraris. I mean, I think it was what Enzo said that if you give a kid a box of crayons and tell him to draw a car, he'll draw a red car,
yep. And
right?
it'll be a red Ferrari most of the
Yep.
time.
So I think good news for Ferrari is good
Yeah.
news for the sport in general, but it's going to be nuts, man. I mean, this season is going to be crazy with everything that's going around. You got to ask yourself who's going to go to Mercedes,
Yep.
right? Is it going to be one of the new folks from the lower formula tiers, or is it going to be somebody that's already out there, right? Who's
You know,
who's going to go? Who's going to go to where's Sainz going to go?
yeah. So I think Science is really going to have to position himself well by the end of the season. But I'll say this: he's the only one to win a race last year against Red Bull.
Yeah,
Everybody else, nobody else did it. He did it,
no,
and he
which is
also,
crazy that they let him go.
well, Leclerc's their boy. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the
And
day, that's
when Hamilton
Ferrari's
comes
boy.
calling, you might want to take that phone call.
That's a phone call that they're definitely going to accept and they're going to come to terms on, right? I
Yep.
mean, they want Hamilton, they want one of the best, and I get it. But and honestly, like he deserves to drive for Ferrari. He's a 7-time world champion. Like
Mm-hmm.
if anybody was to pick a seat for Ferrari, that's the guy, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a Hamilton fan, but I respect him, you know. Um, but yeah, I hate that for Science. I think he's a great driver. He got a horrible car last year. Hopefully, he gets a better car this year, and that'll be great for Hamilton as well. So
Yeah.
we're gonna see, man. This year is gonna be the show out year to know who's going where and what's gonna happen. I think this year is gonna kind of be that weird year where everybody's kind of positioning themselves to do something.
Yeah. You sound real political right there, but let's be honest, right? Are we talking about it's going to be everybody's year to show out behind Max?
Well, of course.
I mean, is there any
I
doubt that
mean,
Max is going to run away with it again?
well, I don't know, man. Did you see that Christian Horner's under investigation?
I did. You know what the problem with that is that, and one of the reasons I didn't want to get into it is because there's no real description of what exactly is going on, you know?
Right. Well, he claims he's
And
innocent. They say he's guilty.
yeah,
You
I mean,
know,
but
what
that's
what are we gonna
everybody.
see?
Everybody who's innocent's going to say they're innocent. Everybody who's guilty is going to say they're innocent. So it's hard to,
Yeah.
it's hard to say, right? But I don't know. I think Christian's he's definitely a competitor, right?
Yeah.
But he seems like a good guy. But I don't know him, so I
I mean,
I
yeah,
can't speak to that. But
I don't know these guys, but
yeah,
personally, no, I don't know them. From what I've seen
exactly.
and heard and all that, I mean, obviously Horner built the team to what it is,
Right.
and for that type
Isn't he
of
the longest reigning
he is.
team boss, right?
He is right
Team
now.
principal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This week, yes.
Yeah, this week.
Right. So,
This
yeah.
week. I mean,
But
you got like 2 more weeks and then
yeah,
I don't know.
it's crazy, man. I personally, if they lose Horner and then you never know what kind of car they're going to bring this year either. Like they may have made an upgrade that turned into a downgrade, but they
No,
had
they
a
didn't.
dominant car last
No, they
year.
didn't. They
So
could have brought last year's car with a new livery on it and it'd have been fine. I mean,
you're right. I mean, you're right.
Okay, so I don't like that aspect of F1, right? I don't like the fact that he checks out and you're kind of waiting for, number 2 and number 3 to do something.
Well,
Some of the most interesting races last year were the races that he had to struggle from behind and come up and win them, but still, I mean, he checked out like crazy. It
I
was
wish on the
insane.
sprint races they would just reverse the grid. They'd say, okay, this is the world champion to be, right? And then just put
Hmm.
him in the back and make him fight his way to the front on all the sprint races.
So you want
Highest in points for the year to start the race. They don't need to qualify for sprint races. Just start the race in the back. And then make him work his way and put all the back markers, the person that's the worst on the grid in the front, and then snap the race and let's go. Imagine that. You'd have everybody that's got the car trying to fight their way to the front, and everybody with the car trying to keep those, or without the car trying to keep those people behind.
It sounds like a cool idea, right?
It'd be sick, man.
But then you've got you got like Gotifi in the back, in the front a couple of years ago, right? And would you want to try and pass Gotifi? No, because he's going to put you in the wall.
Absolutely want to see it. Definitely want to see it. Absolutely, man. I want a Grosjean sitting up front, and I want a Lewis Hamilton sitting in the back. Let's go.
You know that Grosjean is racing in Petit Le Mans.
Indy.
Oh, yeah, Indy. That's right. It's Indy.
Yeah, he did Indy, and he did Petit Le Mans as well.
Who's the other guy that's in Petit Le Mans?
He's in Indy as well. Jensen Button
is in,
world
that's champion. A guy I really don't like because he seems like such a cool guy and he's ridiculously handsome and I don't like him.
Like if you're at a bar and he's at a bar,
I don't like him. I just like walk in and leave, be like, hey.
Oh man, this isn't my space. Have a good day.
It's funny because he's got a great sense of humor. The guy's crazy talented, and he's good looking. And it's like, dude, come on, It's like Ryan Reynolds over here. Like, what is happening?
Yeah, right. Like, even if you don't like Ryan Reynolds, you know that your girl does.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I tell you what, it's crazy. So have you seen the new liveries for F1?
So I've seen all of them so far. Now we haven't seen Red Bull, we haven't seen Ferrari yet. But we got we got Williams, we got Aston. Aston looks good. That's my favorite.
Aston looks great. Aston is the only one. I'm sorry, man. Aston is the only one in the new steak whatever steak.
You got the Cash App Visa car. You got the
but some crazy. So many of them are like getting away from putting color on it because they just want to put the carbon fiber on there because they're trying to save weight. I get it, right? But I miss like the
let's go with like
the cars were all colors.
I miss like the Martini livery,
right?
The Golf livery. Like, come on, guys! Like, bring back some cool cars. Like, just
I was
something
flying
that's
home
iconic.
I was flying home from Boston last week, and there was a guy at the airport, and he was wearing a Martini Porsche jacket. He's wearing a Aston Martin. I mean, a McLaren hat.
Yep.
And he had on like he had something Ferrari with him, and I was like, this guy's confused.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I want to be friends with him.
I do want to be friends with him.
That's how I would dress on a
probably
daily.
Awesome.
That's kind of how I dress on a daily.
Yeah. It is. You had more Aston Martin gear on in one weekend than I have in my whole house. So.
I just got the Aston like 2 weeks ago.
You sure
but in
did.
1 week,
I
have got all of the colors and clothes on.
So let's talk about that real quick, right? So, okay, so let's back up just a little bit. Drive to Survive, right? Drive to Survive popularized F1 in the United States. Agree?
Yeah.
Right?
I agree
so
with that.
A bunch of people who weren't fans of F1 are now fans of F1 because of Drive to Survive, right?
Right.
I feel like it's starting to become mainstream. You and I were at the mall, right? Last weekend.
Yes.
And Hollister and Abercrombie are carrying F1 gear. McLaren, you did buy one, but I was going to throw you under the bus, but no, but they have F1 sweatshirt. They have McLaren sweatshirts. They have Williams Racing. I think Abercrombie has Alfa Romeo, right?
Yeah.
And I think I sent it to you yesterday. PacSun has F1 gear.
PacSun does? I didn't see that.
Yeah,
you may have sent that.
It's insane, man. Yeah. And I mean, here's a bunch of people who are not necessarily car people, right? And
right,
I'm not gonna lie, I love the hoodies. I love the hoodie at Hollister, right? So I mean, I think it's starting to become mainstream, right? I think, and did I hear right? They're talking about possibly doing a 4th race in the US.
Yes. I heard that they were the Chicago They're talking about Chicago.
Pass.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go to
No,
Chicago for a race,
no, I don't want a
but
street circuit in Chicago. I mean, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
but there's people that do, obviously,
I know, and to be
and
honest
that
with
may be the
you,
cheapest race.
no. I mean, to be fair, right? Chicago is a phenomenal city for motorsports, and they have
Right.
done. Didn't they do the NASCAR race in downtown Chicago last year?
They did. Yep, they did.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that was
And
actually
that was
pretty
a big
cool.
hit. That
It
was a
was
big
pretty
hit for
cool,
them. So
but I mean, I don't know, man. I don't. I like Vegas. I know Vegas was kind of just a there was a lot going on in Vegas last year, right? Prices were out of control. They
right.
were still figuring out how to run the event and all that stuff.
Yeah,
But arguably, it was one of the most exciting races that I watched last year.
it was. Although the track does look like an upside down pig.
It does look like an upside down pig, and
Yeah.
I think tomorrow I'm supposed to be racing that track on the
On the
sim.
sim.
Yeah, so
This
it
is
does look
leg
like
number 2. Leg number 3.
the barbecue course,
The
right?
barbecue course. Here we go.
Sponsored by Sonny's Barbecue.
Yeah.
I will tell you, it's one of those things when people say it, you can't unsee it, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No,
And
100%.
somebody was
Now,
like, it looks like an
did it
upside
bring
down
some
pig.
action to the year? Absolutely.
Oh, for sure, for
But
sure.
it's their first
Now,
time on the track.
let
It's
me
a
ask
new
you.
course.
It is, but let me ask you this. You ready? Do
Yeah, let's
you
go.
think it was right that a act of God caused science to go back in the grid when the water main cover
No.
tore through the bottom of his
But
car?
no, I think that he should have been able to start back in the grid. They did it. They did a start. They fixed the track. It wasn't his fault.
I
But
agree.
if you look at regulation, sucks. You know
I
what I
mean,
mean?
yes and no,
Yeah.
but you look at the people in that room that were arguing for him to lose his spot, it was all the competitors, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not. I
Yeah.
felt really bad. I felt like that was outside of his control and whatever. But
It was, and it sucks,
um,
and he would have had a better finish if it wasn't for that. I think that he probably would have finished in front of Perez for the points for the season had he started in a better spot on that track.
I agree.
That's crazy.
Um, what race are you looking forward to most this year? Are you going to go to any of them? You're going to come to Mexico with
Uh,
me?
I wanna go to Mexico, man. Let's
You should
go.
come to Mexico with
I
me.
want to, man. Are you coming to the Indy race with us?
Yes, I'm definitely coming to the Indy
Absolutely.
race.
That's gonna be fun,
100%.
man.
It's right around
And
the
you've
corner.
experienced so Adam has experienced Formula 1. I have experienced Indy in person. I am a huge fan of Formula 1, a huge fan of Indy, but price per race, Indy is a lot cheaper to go to. So we go to the Indy race at Barber every year, and
No,
we've
you're
already got
not
that on the
wrong.
schedule.
Right. It
You
is
know,
very pricey to go to a Formula 1 race. But
what would you say the weekend would cost for the Formula 1 race in Mexico, which is one of the cheaper
uh
races on the calendar?
so a flight to Mexico is probably $300, maybe. Well, I think I looked it up. It was like 400, like 300 and change. So $400, right?
Okay.
Um, the tickets that I ended up going with are in a grandstand with a cover, and so you can see a TV,
Okay.
right?
Perfect. Yeah, we need that.
I believe based on the only one race I've been to, so I'm pretty much an expert by this point.
Perfect.
I believe that you want to have the TV because you can see them go by, but then you don't know what happens the rest of the track, right?
Right.
So you got to be somewhere where you can see the rest of the track, but having that awning makes a big difference, right? So
Especially in Mexico. In what
especially in
month is the race?
Austin was terrible with no awnings. I still don't
Oh,
believe
okay,
that they don't have
man.
awnings over those bleachers, but anyway. It's
Yeah.
in October. It's literally like
Good time to
the
go.
weekend before Halloween.
Cool.
Um, but yeah, so those tickets I think were $800 a piece. They're not cheap.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
but
so
that's for the entire weekend. That's not for like just the day. That's
yeah.
for Friday. That's for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think it's a
So
3-day.
so to preference this, that's so $1,600 for 2 people plus another
Probably. Yep.
$400 a person a flight, so 800 more dollars.
Plus
So we're at
hotel.
plus hotels, all of that. So the Indy race, we're getting car corral tickets. So we park in a car show. We are going to the race. We'll be able to go to the Porsche club. We'll be able to go to other different clubs and stuff. Now they're not on that level, but catered food, all of that, and we're probably total cost for us three, all three of us, and tickets, parking, everything. And I mean, we got to add a hotel, obviously, but you're looking at probably $1,000 for all three of us for the Indy race.
I mean, no, it's not bad. I love it.
Yeah. Just change gears a little bit. Did you see Chevrolet release the new ZR1 in camo and stuff like that?
I did not.
Okay.
So, I am a huge fan of the ZR1, of the concept of the ZR1. I would love to drive it. I think that it would be a really, 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 really cool car.
So the thing, but what? Let's hear the but. Come on.
I can't justify $200,000 for a Corvette.
What if it's 180? What if it's 180?
180 plus tax. It's going to be 200 grand.
Yeah.
And I mean, now don't take anything away from the car, right? We've already seen that the Z06 was walking away from, supercar competitors that were 2 and 3 times as much as that car was.
Yeah.
I get it, right? And I've driven that car, and it's not only fun to drive, but something that supercar manufacturers don't really think about is Chevrolet is a mainstream brand, right?
Yeah.
And because Chevrolet is a mainstream brand, you've got attention to the owner, meaning that like if you look at the inside of the Corvette, it's got like all the gauges and stuff are kind of like, turned toward the driver, right? It's got a really cool feel to it. You got things like heads up display and touchscreen and Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and all these little creature comforts, right? When you get into supercars, for the most part, you're expected to give up a lot of those creature comforts to be in a supercar, right?
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
in a McLaren, you've got creaks and vibration noises and rattling, and it's kind of just expected, right? In some of these other cars, Ferraris and Lamborghinis and stuff like that, there's not as much attention. It's about the experience of the drive. It's about the experience of the car and the sound and the performance, right? But there's a disconnect.
So you would say it's perfection and imperfection, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Right.
And where the Corvette's more perfect.
Well, I wouldn't say more perfect, right?
Well,
I mean,
what I mean is
they took these guys' engine plan and said, "Hey, we can do that too," right? So, I mean, there's a couple things that I love instantly about the Corvette, right? One of them is the fact that you can get a convertible, but they're all target tops, which is phenomenal, and the top goes in the back, which is really cool. No matter
what,
right?
You're getting a convertible, even if you get the coupe.
100%, cool. Right? The nice thing about that car is it sounds good, it drives good, it's quick, so you're going to be able to hang with all the people that paid more than you did for your car. But it's a big but, right? I mean,
it's not rare.
It's definitely not rare. Let's be honest there, right? I mean, you and I saw 15 of them on the way. And that's the other big issue I have with that car is, and we talked about this last week with Porsches, right?
Yep.
The Porsche 911, phenomenal car, phenomenal platform, highly desirable car, has a huge following, right?
Yep.
To the average person, not the average car guy, but to the average person, they can't tell the difference between a Carrera S, a Carrera 4S, a 911 Turbo, a 911 Turbo S. They all look the same to them, right?
Yep.
So if I had one, I'd want to have like a GT4 RS or a GT2 RS or a GT3 RS because I would want the wing and the extravagance of the roll cage and all the things, right? Because and like the fender, the fender louvers and all that, because to me that is a more special version of that same car, right?
So
not to take anything away from the other ones.
ZR1 versus say a McLaren 570.
Oh, I mean, all day is ZR1, right?
Yeah, right.
But guess what? You don't get baller doors. I mean, you don't get baller doors. Like you could, but you
yeah.
don't.
There's a lot of people that put them on there.
Do
I
not
wouldn't.
make me come
I
through
don't
this
think that's
podcast. If you do not know, nope. I'm sorry to anybody who's listening.
Right.
No, I don't. I'm
Look,
sorry.
don't put
Not
Lamborghini
okay.
doors on a car that's not a Lamborghini, right? Like simple
Don't
as
put them on
that.
there. But I don't know. And you sent me the thing. I looked up some of the spy photos. I don't know that there's going to be enough of a difference between the ZR1 and the
And the base car.
Z06 and the
The
base
base
car
car even. I
to
know.
where you're going to
But
be
look,
driving down the road and be like, John, look, it's a ZR1.
so for instance, I've had 3 Corvettes, 2
Right.
C8s, one base, one fully loaded, another Z06. And the Z06, as far as performance goes, in the driver's seat, you could tell the difference in all 3 cars. Hands down, you knew it. But I mean, when a white Corvette pulls up beside your white Z06, if you don't know, you don't know. And
Right.
it was tough. And what killed it for me was I went to a car show and there were 3 Corvettes there, 2 Z06s. One of them was mine, and the other one was white. And I'm just like, I'm
You're
kind
like,
of not
man.
feeling this. Like when I had the bright orange C8, like the base car, it got more attention than the white Z06.
Right.
And I
And
was
you know
just
what? One of
like,
my friends has a C8 in
yeah,
orange. And when we ride together, it really is a beautiful car. And
gorgeous. Yeah.
I'm that guy that if you and I are sitting at lunch and I hear a car go by, I'm
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. What
sound of
was
my
that?
people.
Right.
Sound of my
Hold on, I
people.
want to play cars too. But what's funny about it is, and I love looking at his car. It's a really good spec. It's got lots of carbon fiber on it. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
beautiful car. But okay, so I was actually reading an article last night. I think I sent it to you, right? And it was talking about how the car industry is pricing people, like passionate people, out of being passionate about cars,
Yeah.
right? And if you think about it, that's not wrong, right? I mean, the prices continue to go up,
Yeah.
and a Ford Focus RS, when they were making them, right? It was a attainable cost, $20,000, $30,000 car, right? If they were to
Yep.
make that car today, it'd probably be 50, 60 grand. I mean, look at the GR Corolla,
Yeah. Well,
right?
just simple regular stuff though has changed like that. I mean, look at
Yeah.
I was telling you the other day about my truck. I had a Ram
Oh
Laramie
yeah. Yeah.
Limited that was fully loaded, and I had the window sticker of it. It was $53,000 in 2015. You fast forward to now, that exact same truck is $98,000.
Yep.
Where's that other money coming from? Like, I get it. Prices should go up, but my God, what changed? That is
Exactly. What
astronomical, man.
changed? What changed on the inside of the car that justifies that kind of paycheck, right?
40 to
Nothing.
$50,000 more than it was. I mean, it doubled basically.
And if you
That
look at it, right,
blows my mind.
what is it? GM, Chrysler, Jeep, right? They have
Yeah.
they have the largest on-hand stock of any
They
car
already, yeah,
manufacturer right now.
yeah.
And I'm like, yeah,
Well, they all
you
raised their
increased all
prices
your
a bunch.
stuff by 40
Yeah.
grand. Now I will tell you, a friend of mine just bought a new Jeep Gladiator, right?
Okay.
And he got a smoking deal on it, right? And I was like, yeah, but look at how many cars they have on the lot. Of course you're going to get a good deal on the car, right?
But sometimes you wonder, like, it's hard to judge a good deal now.
It is hard to judge a good
It's
deal.
so hard to judge.
I can't justify a $200,000 Corvette. And I will tell you this,
I know.
right?
I can't either. My
Corvette,
last car, the last CS, but it
it
was a
doesn't
base
matter.
car. It didn't have heated seats. It didn't have memory seats, dude.
It's
My wife
ridiculous.
is 5 foot tall.
She is all day in heels.
Memory seats, dude. Like that should be something standard. But it had heads up display. It had like the weirdest things, like that,
Ooh.
like heads up display, but not memory seats. Like get rid of heads up display. Give me memory seats. Like I don't care about that. I want a raw car.
I get it, right? And the thing about, and that goes back to the argument, right? Because the McLaren is raw.
Yeah.
No buttons on the steering wheel, right?
Yep.
No creature comforts, I mean, it's got memory seats, but okay.
Still want one
But
so
I
bad.
mean, it is it is all about the drive and the experience, right?
Yeah.
The Corvette is more like a daily car, a daily supercar
Yeah.
that you can drive around, right? You can
Yeah.
drive that sucker every single day and be comfortable and enjoy it and everything. Now,
Well,
two things. One, I'm going to get lots of hate mail for this, but one, I mean, a Corvette before they redesigned it had a stigma, right? It was a midlife crisis
George,
car.
George,
Yeah,
midlife crisis. You're wearing New
it
Balances, that
was,
type of
and
thing. Yeah.
more power to them. I think that they brought a whole new audience that was never going to be in
I
love
wa-
with Corvettes into Corvettes.
so I wasn't really interested in the Corvettes until the C8 came out. And
Yeah,
the car I was batting it against was a McLaren. And so the only reason why I bought the Vet over the McLaren was because we wanted a new car experience. We weren't going to get at our price point in a McLaren. So what ended up happening is we built spec the car, did museum delivery. We checked all the boxes,
oh,
right?
that's
We were like,
awesome.
we're going to
Yeah,
have the experience. And my wife and I, that's what we buy the cars for, is experiences. Like us coming to Atlanta last weekend, that was an experience. And for us to enjoy that type of stuff. And we weren't going to get that in the McLaren. If we bought a
no,
used McLaren at the time, I think our price budget was like a 570 at like maybe 130, 140, but the prices were steady going up because of COVID. And I could buy a brand new car for 80 grand, spec to the way I wanted it, and pick it up from the museum, get this great experience, and truly get to enjoy that
and
100%.
the truth of the matter is that the same people who were excited about getting a Corvette and wanted a Corvette, when they go to buy them now, they're double what they used
Yeah.
to cost. And I get that prices go up and all that stuff, but I mean, it's such a
Well,
huge jump.
for
Really
me to
such a
build
huge
the
jump.
orange car that I paid 82 for, that car is 95 right now.
It's insane.
The exact same car is 95, and they don't have
It's
that color
insane.
anymore. It was like a pearl orange that they don't do
Yep.
anymore.
Yeah, that's
And
my friend's got that same color.
that's the color. That color is gorgeous. The new
It's
orange, I don't
probably
like it.
my favorite color on
Yeah.
the Corvette. The other one I really
Yeah, the
like though is the
Sebring.
silver. Was it the CR8? The silver with the like lime green and red on it.
Oh,
I love
yeah,
that
that's
car with the
this
skull on it.
the C8R. Yeah, and then
C8R.
it's
That's
got
what it is. Yeah,
the Jake
love that car.
logo or whatever. Yeah,
Love that
and
car.
but the colors that we like, they discontinued. Now they've got like these more pastel colors, which are fine. It's
Right.
just not the colors we want. And so going into the next car, it was like, I just don't want the same car somebody's got down the street. So
No, I'm with you.
we
So,
switched,
okay.
you know.
So speaking of the next car, right? Um, big news today,
Yeah.
right? Aston dropped
Yes.
what, 4 or 5 different cars. One of them was their new GT4 car, a
Yeah.
bunch of other stuff, but the focus is around the Vantage,
Yeah.
right? So
And
the
you're a
new
Vantage guy.
Aston
I'm more
Martin,
of like
yeah,
a DB11 guy or
I
DBS
am
guy.
so
Like
a Vantage guy. I
you're a
mean,
Vantage guy.
I am also I mean, I love the DB12, right? My friend's
Right.
taking delivery of that car. I love the DBS. Um, but
What's wrong with
I
the
really
DB11, man?
love the Vantage. The Vantage and it's just such a good looking car. But right, the new Vantage, it was announced literally last night. I started seeing stuff
Yep.
on it last night, and then today, every YouTuber who can get their hands on that car is in front of it. Every
Yep.
car publications in front of that car.
Right.
Um, Here's the thing, right?
Would you give
It's
up the
got
Vantage for it?
it's got 153 more horsepower and 85 more foot-pounds of torque. It has more horsepower than a 911 Turbo S. It has
Yeah.
more horsepower, significantly more horsepower than the R8 GT,
Yep.
right? Now from the outside of the car, it seems like they kind of meshed it together. And I'll tell you this. So when I was in New York, I stopped by the Aston Martin lounge and met one of the most funny, awesome people there. Her name's Lisa, and I'm hoping to have her on our podcast at some point. But
Absolutely.
she is absolutely hilarious, and she was telling me all these stories. But she was telling me, Aston is really trying to rebrand themselves, right? They're really trying to not so much be the gentleman supercar anymore. They want to be, competing head to head with the the 911s
Bigger
of the world and
brand.
stuff like
Yeah.
that, right? And I would say the revamp on the Aston. Don't love the mirrors, right?
Oh,
But
the way they turn
okay.
upside down.
I don't like the way they turn upside down. I don't like the shape of
Yeah.
them. I don't like the
Yeah.
shape of the stock that holds them, to be honest with you. The headlights are cool, but I kind of like
I
the
like
headlights on my car because this
I like yours
one
better.
reminds me too much of the DB12, right?
Yeah.
Which I love the DB12, but it's the DB12,
Right.
right? They made the grill 40% bigger, right? Because it's just
It's the
gulping
most
through air.
BMW thing I've ever heard.
Oh, would you stop? You love BMWs, don't lie. Got that big old kidney grill. But no, I mean it's 40% bigger because it's gulping through air, right? But now it has, and they didn't talk about this. It's got sonar in the front, so it's probably got adaptive
Right.
cruise control. It's got lane keeping and all the good stuff on it. But the one difference, the one thing, it's got more horsepower, it's got more torque, it's got stiffer suspension and better chassis and all that stuff. It's gonna sound like such a terrible thing to say.
Are
I
you
don't
making the
care.
move? You don't care.
No, I don't
Nice.
care. I
I don't
don't
blame you.
care about all
Yeah.
those numbers. You know what I
Thank
care
you.
about? The interior of that car is completely revamped.
And you like that.
I love it, man. I
So
do.
you're
The
making the
interior of my
move.
car is a warmed over Mercedes tech. Doesn't have a touchscreen, doesn't have CarPlay, right? This thing's got a 10-inch screen in it, right?
I mean, look, I get it. At the same time, though, like, is it that much better? Like, is it so much better that it's going to cost you 100 grand? I mean, really, is it worth that 100 grand?
So here's the truth, right? The truth is the Aston was my first ever proper like supercar, whatever, right? And it's
Right.
very special. I mean, you saw when we were up at at the Caffeine Octane. I mean, people love that car and I love it,
Yeah. It's a gorgeous
I
car.
could not see myself getting rid of it, but
Right.
I do wish that the
Would you give
interior
up the
was a little bit more
McLaren for a
updated.
new? Would you give up the McLaren for the new one? I mean, that's
No,
basically.
I'm not gonna have two Vantages. That'd be weird.
No, I'm saying trade the Vantage and the McLaren to make it happen.
No way. What do you want? What are you on, drugs? What's
I'm
in that
just
thing you're
saying.
drinking? Like
I'm
that, there's
just
no way.
asking questions, man.
I might be buried in that Vantage. I don't know.
Buried financially or
No, buried in real
independently?
life. When it goes down, they're gonna lower me into the ground in the Vantage. I'm gonna be in the driver's seat with both my hands taped
You
to
know
the
what
steering wheel.
though, honestly, and that's the other thing. Like the Corvette had all the tech. I mean, it had everything I wanted. It had Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, all that fun stuff. The trip to Texas, I literally put it on the phone, put it on the computer, or put it on the infotainment and just drove, and
Right.
it was fine. And then I had the Aston that doesn't have that stuff, and I'm driving back holding my phone the whole time.
Okay,
Is
but
the tech that much better? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's that much
did
to
you enjoy
matter.
driving that Aston home?
I'd rather drive the Aston. It
There you
was
go.
way more comfortable, way more fun, way more head turning and all of that stuff. So
Oh,
for
I
me,
fully
it's not
agree.
about the tech. I mean, it's not about the
No,
inside.
I agree, right? But you're talking about a Corvette versus an Aston. I'm talking about an Aston versus an Aston.
Okay. So big question, you gonna make the move or not?
I think
Have
if
you heard the
they I
price
think if
yet? Have they released the price yet?
they said it's going to be 15 to 20 grand more than the base price of the original one.
Okay. So are you gonna go from a Vantage F1 to a base new one if they
No.
don't offer an F1 edition?
No, I mean that's the truth of the matter, right? Is the only way I would consider making the move is if they did a special edition,
Right.
right? And they're
Yeah.
not really known to do a lot of special editions. The like the F1 was like one of the first ones. Now
Right.
they did a Bond edition with the DB11 when that came out, which if you haven't seen it, that's a sick car. It's like
Pretty cool.
a gold color and it's got like copper wheels on it. It's just I probably wouldn't expect that car that way, but I saw it in person. It's just a beautiful car.
I would still, I mean, like for instance, obviously, I like the special edition Astons if you're going to do it because the AMR was
Yeah.
special edition and it was before the F1 was a thing. So to
No,
me, that
that's the whole
was
point,
super
right? If
cool.
they
Yeah.
don't because they don't do many of them, right? I mean, if you look at McLaren, they didn't do a lot with
Special
the
edition.
765, but if you look at the McLaren, right, there's a website out there you can go and look at every special edition that McLaren's ever released. And the funny thing is, there's a bunch of them that aren't even on there, right? Because they did like a Pikes Peak edition where they only made
Yeah.
6 of them,
They did the
you know,
Can-Am
and
edition too.
they
They
did
did
the
some other
Can-Am
weird stuff
edition.
like
Yep.
that, yeah. They did some
You
with
know, they
center
did
lock
an
wheels that were interesting too.
yeah,
It's
they
the
did an
cool stuff.
MSOX. They did a
Yeah,
a 620R, right? I mean, they've got
yeah,
tons of different like liveries and special editions.
yeah,
And that's the stuff I like, man.
yeah.
I like to pull up to a car meet and not have the same car everybody else does, right?
Agree.
And in fact, a friend of mine got a car today, and I mean, he's really excited, right? But it's a 4 Series BMW,
Yeah.
and they're like driving it home from the dealership, and I'm like, hey, how would you feel about putting carbon fiber mirrors on that thing? Can we put a carbon fiber diffuser on the back, maybe one on the front? You know, what's the tint situation on that car? Is it tinted? Do we need new wheels?
I know a good company for all of that. It's, Dining Cars.
haven't
Just hit me up on a weekday.
haven't even pulled in the driveway yet, and I'm like, oh, you should do this.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing though. Normally, when it comes to dailies and stuff like that, I'll buy it and fix it the way I want it. When it
Yeah,
comes to special cars like the Aston, or
I'm
if we
not
get
gonna
a
touch them.
McLaren or something like that, I'll change a few things, but I'm not going to get crazy with it. I don't even want to tint the AMR
Oh no,
just because the
I
inside
had to tint
matches
the
the outside
Aston.
to me.
Well, you don't want to tint the AMR because you want all the haters to hate. So I get it.
The haters are going to hate regardless, man. They're probably going to hate because of this podcast. You're welcome. Hi.
There you go.
We made it.
What what they say? You need haters in your life, right?
Hey, look, man, if
Um,
they're not hating, you're not doing it right.
that's right. I mean, you're not doing anything that's worth anything.
Right.
But no, I mean, honestly, I'm with you. You know, with the F1, I changed out the steering wheel, but that was because I didn't want to mess up the original steering wheel, and it ended up being phenomenal. You
Yeah.
know, I put in like all weather floor mats just because it's easier to clean, and I
Right.
wouldn't mess up the carpet on the original floor mat. But I did tint the windows and I PPF the car, right? And that was
Yeah.
pretty much all I did. All right,
Yeah.
guys. Well, we're gonna wrap up.
Yep.
It's been great. Like I
Yep.
said in the last podcast, I mean, this is just something we're doing as an outlet for ourselves. We love it.
Yep.
We're having a great
It's ton of
time, as you
fun.
could probably see. We're gonna get better.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank everybody for subscribing. You know, tell your friends, share us, like and share it, and hope to see you guys in the next one.
And let's go, guys. Yeah. It's been great. This has been awesome. Ton of fun. And we'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks, guys.